You pick a fight with Willie, you are finished.
Mank. Mr. Mankiewicz.
Hello. Welcome to the show, everyone. We've got, what do we got? Well, we don't have the Faith Under Fire, Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain movie, but we got practically the same thing, a David Fincher movie about the making of Citizen Kane. I'm assuming it's the exact same movie. Just in the same way, I'm sure all the movies we talk about today are the same. We've got David Fincher's Mank, plus the Disney Plus movie Godmothered, and the horror film Anything But Andrew, I think. Is that what it's called? I should really look to see what the titles of these movies are.
I was going to say, you haven't even told me any of them, so I'm
because
just like,
I don't know what's going to be trending until, like...
the day.
Yeah,
today.
I mean, well, Mank I knew, because, like... I saw that was going to be coming out this weekend, so that one I was like, oh yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that one, but I didn't know what else was going to be dropped, so I just kind of play it by ear. So when I texted you a couple days ago, it was like, hey, are you free?
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm free. I'm like, cool, we'll watch something.
Watch something.
The inner cinema snob in me is glad we're watching something Citizen Kane related. As someone,
do you want to get into character for this review?
Oh, I don't need to. When you've played the cinema snob for 13 some years, however long that I've
Has it really
yeah,
been
it's
that
been that long. Yeah.
Good Lord.
I had hair and no facial hair.
I can remember back when you first pitched that character to me. I was like, that is brilliant.
I was bored and drunk.
Yes.
It's actually very, very similar to for Herman Mankiewicz, like drinking and writing.
There you go, Brad. Compare yourself to Mankiewicz. Okay.
I get. It's one of those things that you pick up when playing the cinema scene for so long. You'll start to just become that character. For instance, I just go around everywhere with a copy of Citizen Kane in my pants.
Ooh.
Why, yes, I did keep that secretly stuffed in my pants for a lame sight gag on video.
Can I just, can I admit something to you?
You've never seen this movie?
I've never seen this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you saw Like a Boss.
Sorry.
You should have seen the Rolodex, like, quickly flipping in my head of what are dumb movies we've seen this year. Like a Boss! That's the reference that I'll go with.
And...
Both are about business and power. So, the same thing. I've seen Citizen... I mean, yeah, I have. This, but, like, I've not seen this copy of the movie. Which is evidenced by the fact that it's been rewound. It's got a gold label. I bet that means I won something 30 years ago. No, I've seen Citizen Kane.
Because he's got a golden label.
It's been a long time since I've seen the film, but yeah, Citizen Kane. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a really good movie, honestly. It's just been since high school that I've seen the film. But I mean, you remember a lot of, if it's been a while since you've seen it, you'll remember a lot of it when you're watching this movie, which is about Herman Mankiewicz writing Citizen Kane and drinking a lot and kind of going through the Hollywood scene of the 1930s.
Yeah.
All of the smoking, drinking, partying, more drinking, and politics going on at the time. I really dug the shit out of this movie.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I did really like this movie. Since you haven't seen Citizen Kane or anything like that, what did you think sitting through the movie?
So here's the thing. There was a few things about it that kind of lost me.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue was kind of confusing because it was like there's a moment
You
where
get used to the gunfire. It's like in Springfield when we'd review movies out at Showplace East.
So, okay. No, so anyway, like there's a part where Herman's assistant says she takes care of his platonic affairs, and I'm just kind of like, wait, would that still be considered an affair?
I think affair is just meaning in the general sense, just
Oh.
like his situations, his business.
Oh.
Okay. Not affairs as in like an extramarital affair or a love affair or anything like that. It's what now, if you've seen previews at all for this movie, you know that it's very much shot like an old Hollywood film.
And that I loved.
It's amazing about this movie.
It was so cool how they just recreated that whole 1930s film feel and so, you know, I know that there's a lot of film hipsters out there that are like, oh, you can't get any better than film. No, see, this was shot digitally, and you know, it looked really good.
No, it does. It does look really good, and the amount of detail that is put into every shot in this film, every frame of this movie is perfect. Every shot in this film is, whether it's all the details that they've put into the shadows, the lighting, the background, the extras, the hair, the suit, everything, every amount of detail put into every single frame of this movie.
The fade to
is
black
stunning.
transitions.
The fade, all the stuff they did to mimic certain filmmaking styles at the time, right down to the cigarette butts on the little cigarette butts on the top of the screen for film reels switching over, which, considering this is from the director of Fight Club, they also should have inserted like a frame of someone's dick before it got to the end. Then, yes, it's a real David Fincher theatrical experience. It's such a gorgeous looking film that, man, I wish I did see this in the theater. Like, I wish, I mean, I don't know if this still would have been a giant Netflix release if a lot of theaters weren't closed down right now. Like, I know that some are open. Some might be playing this, because I know some Netflix movies still. I mean, we saw Hillbilly Elegy. Of the Netflix, I saw Hillbilly Elegy in a theater.
and you saw this at home.
Yeah.
Damn.
And watch this at home.
Thanks,
Man,
COVID.
Right? The biggest tragedy of 2020. I didn't see this movie in a theater. No, I hope that, like, let's say this is a normal year and, you know, all theaters were open, operating at mass capacity and all that. I would hope that this would still have gotten, like, play in a lot of theaters, because to go back to a movie that we referenced earlier, it would suck that in a normal year, this movie I'm watching on television, but we saw Like a Boss on the big screen. I mean, I'm not, you know, saying that I regret seeing Like a Boss on, you know, a big screen, because it gave us something to talk about afterwards. I don't know why I'm going after that movie so hard. It's like, that is not going to be on my bottom 10 of the year. Two things I wish I could have seen on a big screen in 2020. That would be David Fincher's Mank and Trump Card.
Really?
Oh, dude. Seeing those movies with an audience? Yeah.
True. It almost kind of would have been a callback to when we saw that one horror flick.
Oh, they got booed at the Devil Inside.
Yeah. Devil Inside.
Yeah. The Devil Inside, where they all threw shit and booed at the end. Oh yeah, that also happened to us when we saw Apollo 18. Remember? Or were you with me when it was the found footage movie that was on the moon?
Oh.
And like there was some people in front who like booed when it was over with or something. And I was like, I don't know, it was all right. They got attacked by moon crabs.
Oh yeah. I was with you for that.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that, but
it was more silent than Devil Inside, because there's only like 5 people in the theater when we saw Apollo 18.
True.
But to go back to this, even in terms of the acting style that's in the movie, is they have a lot of performances in the movie that, again, are similar to, what do they call it? It's like that mid-Atlantic kind of accent, or like movie acting from like old Hollywood and things like that. Like there are a lot of They don't go They don't go like distractingly over the top with it, but it's there. Yeah. It's like they are trying to basically mimic an Orson Welles movie, right? And how it's shot, how a lot of the acting is, how it's kind of placed chronologically, what they're doing with the cinematography, shadows, and all that, and it's perfect. The way that it's shot, the way that it's shot is, and I just genuinely really got into this movie anyway, outside of it being gorgeously shot and presented, and all of the care that they've put into every aspect of filming here, just on a storytelling character level. I was also still really, really into this movie. For you, was it more so kind of just sort of being impressed with the way that it was made over what was going on in the movie, or?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with you. This was a good movie.
Yeah.
The thing with me is I'm just not into old movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't seen Citizen Kane. Having said that, I'm interested. I wouldn't mind seeing it because it's such a,
you can borrow that copy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a VHS or a VCR anymore.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
My 2 VCRs are over at the studio.
But yeah, no, I mean, but I do recognize what kind of an icon this movie is, and I definitely get how Mank would get such a huge following, because it is.
And Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Yeah, how Orson Welles would. What I like about the way that they're showing this in this movie, about him being hired to write this movie and being drunk a lot of the time and being secluded while writing it, showing a lot of flashbacks of what the kind of political climate was then, and the certain branches of Hollywood power, and some producers and actresses that he knew. I like that you can see how that is later influencing what he's writing, but doing it subtly. It's just kind of showing us what this guy's kind of routine was in the 30s throughout Hollywood and the studios and these sets, and this governor's race that was happening then. Showing us all that stuff that's going on, and letting the audience kind of put it together in their head that is maybe subconsciously or whatever, or intentionally kind of influencing what he would later write, versus being really, it's subtle. The movie's subtle about that, versus being very ham-fisted. Like let's say he sees something in the mid 1930s, and then later on is just kind of like, writing it down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just kind of lets all of these characters and conversations play out, that gives you an idea of this guy's experience, and how and why, and what the means came to be of how he would write something like this.
Yeah.
And the dialogue in the movie is something that I really loved. Like,
did you?
How snappy it was. There was a lot of it that was. It's a very witty film.
Yeah.
How snappy the comebacks would be. There's a whole sequence in this movie where all these characters are kind of sitting around drinking with a piano player there, and they're talking about different backdoor deals among the studios, Hitler, politics going on in California, and also just a lot of characters simply kind of just giving each other shit through the night, and the piano player like chiming in with music cues during this too, if someone has like a decent one-liner.
Yeah, right.
When all that was going on, I was sitting there going, these actors are so into this. It's so gorgeously filmed, and their chemistry with the back and forth dialogue is excellent. Something like that I could have watched for a good long while. Like, I thought these actors were so good in this film.
Yeah. So, since we're on the topic of the politics of this movie, I did think that the political narrative of this movie was a bit misguided, because he was conveying that even back in the 1930s that the Democrats were the liberals and the Republicans were the
that was
conservatives.
accurate. Everything they were now I know that, like, everything that they were talking about Upton Sinclair in this film and that race is accurate to what his politics were, what people were criticizing him about, what people who didn't like him would say about him. Like, you can compare. It's impossible to do any kind of movie now that's like a throwback to a political climate back then that you wouldn't automatically kind of compare to this day and age. Just instinctively you will. I don't know if that was the intent of the movie really, but it does kind of show what would influence his script and also what was going on in that particular race then, that gubernatorial race between Sinclair and I forget the other guy's name.
Yeah.
But who,
by the way, Sinclair was played by Bill Nye.
Yeah. But what people like Louis B. Mayer hated about him, and what people liked about the other person, what like the kind of ads would have been, all that was accurate.
So am I accurate in saying you're gonna give this movie an A or an A plus, or am I jumping ahead?
Oh, you're jumping ahead.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Let me just check my notes here that tell me exactly what I think about a movie. No, I like that it's certainly a love letter to that filmmaking style of then.
Yeah.
And Orson Welles and the look and feel of an Orson Welles movie, and
definitely
the pacing and the tone. As for Hollywood itself, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's like a love letter to Hollywood necessarily, but neither is it like a hit piece or anything like that. It's a movie that is showing that a lot of these people are just kind of drunken, like chain smoking, shit talking, oafs, kind of like
elites.
And a lot of them treat each other like shit, sure, but it's more so just kind of like a world-building movie that is kind of just taking you on this tour of the Hollywood scene in that time without either really condemning it or being a love letter towards it, just kind of showing these people who they sort of are in these particular snapshots. Whenever there's characters that are kind of depressed or drunk, it's not that they're like wallowing in self-pity or anything like that. It's just kind of who they are and what sort of gives them the drive to do a lot of the writing that they do. It's a lot of people who seem to be very set in their personalities.
Yeah.
And again, have very good lines because of it. Like when the guy's sitting there, like when one guy wants to commit suicide, and Mank says, "Oh yeah, I tried that once. It takes years." And him also talking about how the best ideas he comes up with are right before he goes to bed, which is true, which is why I keep my little like note thing on there. Wake up the next morning like, what the fuck do I mean by that?
Are you also hungover?
No, I can't write drunk. Like, well, I used to be able to write. I used to be able to direct drunk when I was much younger. Now, no.
That explains cheap.
Was I? I think a lot of Midnight Heat I directed drunk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cheap. Maybe a little here and there. I was on some other stuff when I wrote that.
I just thought I'd make a jab. That's all.
Oh no!
Really
Heat, I definitely was, but
really,
oh god, yeah. I think some of Game Boys, maybe. I'm not sure, but
we would shoot a few scenes like at the bar or around the bar.
That's why I was drunk during like 80% of Midnight Heat, because it was all taking place downtown at night, in which we would all be meeting at the bar.
Yeah,
and one of us would be running like an hour or two late, and sometimes by the time we'd start, we'd be a little bit tipsy.
I miss that bar.
I
miss that bar.
I don't miss that time.
I get
no,
you.
I've been clean for a while, like, and that, looking back at that, it's like, yeah, there were some good times and a ton of shitty ones.
Yeah.
When you're out there, like, drinking till dawn, like, every other... I wish I could... I wish I could have written a Citizen Kane.
You're
no,
right.
I could write you a movie about snuff films and the porn industry. Citizen Kane, no, not really. I don't think so. But no, like little things like when he's talking about that, I was going like, yeah, that's true. Like, as your mind goes all over the place when you're trying to go to sleep, and you'll write down some different ideas. And I like that, like, he's like they're kind of using alcohol for like these like prizes for him, like getting far in the script.
Oh yeah.
And then they switch it with or no, they put
they actually spike his alcohol.
They spike it. They slip him a Mickey through like these bottles.
Yeah.
And he's out cold, and then wakes up and is just like, whew, you know, I actually might have some more of that to use as a nightcap. Like, I slept great. No, but I did really dig the hell out of this movie. I would give it, I'd give it an A.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would totally give it an A.
Okay.
I highly recommend the movie. Between just the style of it, the acting, the monologues that it has, that I'm just like hooked on every word that this guy is saying, whether it's through the dialogue or just how it's lit, how everyone looks, the shadows, costuming, everything. Like, I was really invested in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to see a movie this detailed and ambitious, and I wish I wasn't watching it on my television at noon in like sun coming in through the windows and everything like that. But regardless of that, like, no, I'd give it an A. What about you?
Well, it's a little unfair, because a little unfair for me to grade this movie, because like I said, I wasn't really into the old movies, you know, like Citizen Kane. So when I say a B, you know, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm not an expert on Citizen Kane.
Sure. Despite
playing the cinema snob for a long time. Like, I haven't seen it since high school, so I'm hardly an expert on the film. But I remember enough to kind of draw some comparisons between this and what that is. And again, you're more into older films than I am. I don't watch them a lot, but I have seen a lot of them. Yeah. So for me, it's like, well, I mean, I can give it a B, but it's, you know, to the credit of the movie, it's not exactly the fairest rating. But I mean, you know, like if you do like this kind of filmmaking, you'll like it. And like I said, I was going to say. That I did dig the way this movie was. Oh yeah, and I was gonna say too, clever. Like even outside of that, I think regardless of if you've seen Citizen Kane or not, I guess you probably get something, because I mean, like, as much as like, yeah, I've seen a lot of older movies like this, but I don't go back to them a lot. I mean, there's a reason I haven't seen this since high school. I tell you, I've seen Citizen Kane once, but I've seen Mannequin like 100 times. Great movie. Citizen Kane should have also had a Starship soundtrack. I'm just saying. Trent Reznor.
Yes. Okay, so as a musician, I'm going to tell you that, like, this score is just chock full of, like, jazz and swing from the 1930s. And then whenever you find out that it's scored by Trent Reznor, it's like, what? I mean, I'm sure that he's definitely capable of all that. It's just, you don't expect that out of Trent Reznor.
He's won an Oscar for musical score. He's done like a lot of David Fincher movies.
Oh.
Yeah. He's done a lot of scores that are like, it's not, like he's done a lot of different scores of wildly different styles. So, I can see him doing this.
See, now, okay, so I guess that's just it. I don't really know much about Trent Reznor's filmography as much as I know of his discography.
Oh, sure, yeah. The musical score is great. Yeah. It's period. It's, it matches the style, the acting and everything. Yeah. And that old Hollywood kind of jazzy sort of score going on. Oh, yeah. It was really well done. I hope this gets up for a lot of Oscars. No, I do. And so I totally recommend this flick. Coming up next, we have got, so you give it a B?
Yeah.
Yeah. B, A. Coming up next, we'll see if those grades are exactly the same for the Disney Plus movie, Godmothered. We'll be back in just a bit with Godmothered.
But I think if you can overlook my youth and your total lack of experience, you'll find I have a real can-do attitude that's going to take us very, very far.
I will call 911.
Meepo, Transfergarum, Best.
A minute or no?
No, we'll just let the train go in the background.
All right.
No, like, that way we could speed this up. Like, hurry, dude, my train's gonna leave, like, in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Actually, this is kind of a throwback. Remember when the train kept appearing when we used to shoot at Showplace 12? All the years of doing midnight screenings, we would be like, there'd be the field and then the railroad tracks, and we'd always get the night freight train rolling across.
Yeah. Well, from a distance, this is like, I don't know.
This is like shaking your apartment, like in Seven or the Blues Brothers. See, but so we just watched the Disney Plus original movie, Godmothered.
Right.
Say Godfathered.
Right. Okay.
Like, so it's just like the Godfather.
So Godmothered. It's 2 hours. It's bad. I gotta go. I gotta catch this train.
But I did tell you all these movies were going to be exactly the same. Because, like, the plot is a fairy godmother has come to personally deliver the script of Casablanca to a drunken writer in the 1930s. Oh man, I didn't know that's how it really went.
Dude, okay, sold. I'd watch that.
I used to say, by the way, watching this movie with Jerrid was hilarious because you were having none of this movie. From beginning to end, you were having none of this film. Like, and it was it was hilarious because, like, it would like, there'd be a character who, like, there'd be some lights in the sky and a character would be like, that's awesome. Jerrid's sitting there like, no, it's not. Like, man, like, you were like just going after this movie. Like the part where, like, the carriage flies at the end, you're like, oh great, so the magic watermelon can fly now.
I mean,
you were this close to being. He was giving this movie nothing. Like, he was this close to being like, oh, so what? End credits. Like, we didn't see that coming. Like, every movie doesn't do that.
Directed by? Oh, yeah, big surprise.
So someone directed this? Kind of egomaniac did that. And he's just by himself, too. What? Couldn't take help from anyone? I love the part where there was an orchestra. And you're like, oh, so there's an orchestra now? And like, it's a Christmas pageant, dude.
Look, there are times where where I get like so like
mad at a movie.
Where I just get so done, like I just stop paying attention. Where I'm just like I just don't even care.
Yeah,
you want to explain the synopsis? And then
oh, I mean, it is like they wanted something for the holiday season, so they were like, okay, we want to put something out there that's a little elf and also enchanted, and that's kind of what you got here. Jillian Bell is a fairy godmother from a fairy godmother school who their duties have gotten very low because the world's gotten so cynical that no one really needs a fairy godmother or asks for one. Like, it's just kind of this forgotten thing. And so they're down on work and also their educational skills at this particular Hogwarts-like fairy godmother school. But Jillian Bell is the one who is determined for this fairy godmother thing to still be a thing, and she does find this old letter that was forgotten by a young girl, and she ends up going into the real world to give this person their happily ever after. But as it turns out, the letter is like 40 years old, so it's an adult Isla Fisher who she's with. You're going to hate me. I honestly did not think this movie was that bad.
Really?
Yeah, but when it started out though, I was a bit worried, because it starts out with this narration from June Squibb, who goes, this is not going to be your typical fairy tale, or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, how many times do I have to hear that line in the opening of a movie like this?
This is totally different.
I just heard that in Secret Society of Second-Born Royals, another Disney Plus movie that I watched some months ago, and it was awful. Really? So when this movie started like that, I'm like, oh man, here we go. It's gonna be this bullshit again. Like, this isn't your typical fairy tale. Not everyone gets a happily ever after. I'm like, goddamn, they do this so much in movies now. It would actually be original if it was a typical fairy tale. And then it comes in with, again, June Squibb being this older, or Jillian Bell's grandma or someone, or this older fairy godmother.
I don't know.
And she comes in like with this storybook and these jokes that are like, we're gonna party like it's 1699, and
because I'm that old, apparently.
Yeah, and so she's dropping references like she literally says, like, I'm too cool for school. Now here's his hip fairy tale. Like, oh man. And when we first put it on, and I was looking at the title, I was looking at the runtime, and I go, all right, dude, no matter how this movie turns out, I'm going to tell you right away, there is probably no reason for this movie to be an hour and 53 minutes long.
Right, yeah.
I actually didn't mind this movie.
Really?
But it did not need to be an hour and 53 minutes long.
Yes, thank you. Could have been an hour long.
I'll get 90 minutes, but I'll get to more of that here in a second. There were things that I did that I honestly did like about it. I like that in this school that they're in, they're all old. Like, all the students look like fairy godmothers. Like, they're all like 70, 80 years old, except for Jillian Bell. Now, granted, there's things... I didn't think this movie was that bad, but it's a flawed movie. So I'm not going to be like, oh man, I saw two great movies in a row. Mank and this movie, both equal in quality. Like, no, I'm not going to be like that. Like, it is, like, it does do the whole, like, fish out of water thing. She's in the real world, which is like, so I realize that this kind of fairy godmother school you were at is like low on funds and everything, but did they not teach you anything?
Right.
Like, you don't know what anything in the real world is.
Yeah.
Like, Okay, so they kind of did force this sort of fish out of water, like, what's a car? What's a hot dog? Like,
oh, pumpkins! Here, let me make a carriage. Ooh.
Well, that she knows what it is because they teach her about that.
Right.
Like, she knows what pumpkins are and making carriages and everything. And by the end, she's got to do it with a watermelon. And there, I did like. As far as Jillian Bell goes, she can be kind of hit or miss for me sometimes. Like, there's times where I think she's perfectly fine. There's times I thought she's done an excellent job in something. Then others where she's been a little much. And when I saw the plot of this, which is like she's a fairy godmother who goes into the real world, I'm like, this is dangerously sounding like something that might be a little much. But she's under, like, really solid direction here. It doesn't feel like where I've seen her go wildly over the top before. It more so kind of came across as one of those movies where, one of the lesser movies she was in, would be one of those movies where the direction was just, okay, you're funny, just go in front of the camera and do whatever you want.
Right.
Whereas in this, you can tell each actor was under some pretty solid direction, and it, like, kind of knew when to pull back and to also be pretty committed and go over the top when necessary, but not to where it was just, let's put this person in front of the camera, have him scream like a madman, and whatever, we'll cut it together in post. We'll get 30 minutes of ad-libbing and cut it down to like a 5-minute ramble session. They don't really do that here. Like, and I did admire how committed she was to this role, but it never reached that this easily could have gone very obnoxious for me. And it really didn't, as far as her performance and her acting goes. Did you not care much for her in this?
So I don't know. I don't really think so I'm not really all that familiar with her, so I don't really think I've seen anything with her in it. So I guess I don't have a benchmark, but I did. I just thought, the character and the whole synopsis was a little obnoxious. There was all sorts of cliches and tropes.
Well, yeah, it's a Disney Plus Christmas movie about fairy godmothers.
Yeah, so I just think that, like, this is the kind of movie that you'd see on, like, ABC Family, you know what I mean?
Also owned by Disney.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, it has too big of a budget for that. And too big. Have you seen an ABC Family movie?
I mean,
like, this movie, dude, compared to even Lifetime and Hallmark, this movie looks like the Avengers.
Well, yeah, if you compare it to Lifetime and Hallmark, yeah.
I don't know what an ABC Family movie looks like.
Well,
or maybe it's been a while since... wait, I don't even think ABC Family still exists. Isn't it like Freeform or some shit now?
Well, yeah, now.
Yeah.
But I mean,
maybe Freeform has bigger budgets.
Right.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think it's still owned by Disney. It's just now called Freeform.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Disney owns pretty much every other channel.
Right.
So, of course, like, it'd be ironic if the one station they didn't own, oddly enough, the Disney Channel, is actually bought out by Warner Brothers at this point.
Do you work for DreamWorks?
I did not see that coming. No, here's where I kind of end up on this movie, is that I think kids are going to like it just fine, because there's enough over-the-top characters, and between the special effects and some of the action-y stuff that's in the movie, and the things with the animals, like the pig and the raccoon. I'll get more on that in a minute. But parents will be watching this movie with them as well, and as far as parents watching the movie with their kids, I don't see this being... I see this... A parent, I think, by and large, would tolerate this movie just fine being on, as opposed to a few of the other Disney Plus movies that I've had to watch, or even the Netflix movies like this. Like, this is leaps and bounds better than that Second Born Royals movie, or that Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting thing that I watched on Netflix.
Wow.
Now, both of those, I'd say, like, yeah, okay, if you're a kid, odds are you might like one of those movies. Ooh boy, but are you going to be reaching for the booze if you're a parent who has to sit through, like, one of those? Whereas this, I don't see that being the case with this. Especially because if there is one thing that this has in common with David Fincher's Mank, there is a lot of scenes of characters getting shit-faced.
Yeah. There's actually drinking going on in a Disney movie.
The fairy godmother gets drunk in this film and plays pool and falls on her ass and everything. Like, and other characters do too throughout the movie. I'm like, oh, they're keeping the drinking in there. You could tell that, like, that they did have that in mind, that there are going to be parents also watching this movie. Yeah. So why not make it relatively enjoyable for both, as opposed to enjoyable for one, obnoxious as hell to the other one.
Right.
So let's also include let's also include some drinking in there, and disco music. A little Harry Nilsson on the soundtrack as well. It's got Steppenwolf on the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, hey, hey, parents, remember the 70s? Yeah, no, I just, I didn't, okay, look, I didn't hate this movie. And my thing about kids movies is, I'll remind everybody about my review of Judy Moody and the Not Bummer Summer.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, Ryan was like, yeah, you know, just like you know, it was fine. It's a kid's movie and everything. And then I was just like, dude, you know, kids don't need to be patronized.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Right. And so what having said that, I will say this isn't as bad as Judy Moody. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think that, like, if you're gonna make a kids movie, you can still make one that, you know, isn't. I don't know. Just
like I'm not like and I see that in the comments sometimes where it's like, but it's a kids movie. That's not what I'm saying. Otherwise, I would have recommended that stupid Second Born Royals movie. But what I'm saying about it is that. I think it's something that also, like, a parent would be totally fine sitting through.
Sure.
It's not. I don't think this movie is completely just cynical pandering.
Sure.
I think it does have I think it does have, like, an adult audience in mind a little bit when watching it. In that it's got both the waitress and Artemis from It's Always Sunny in the film.
Right.
That made me want to see a darker version of this movie where it's Caitlin Olsen playing the fairy godmother. I'm also fairly certain the love interest in this is doing a Jeff Goldblum impression.
Thank you. Yes.
When you pointed that out, I go like, yeah, I'm seeing that hardcore right now.
Wait. Did you just say you love me? Whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how it goes. Also, like, plus, as far as the kids in the movie go, too, overall, I probably liked Christmas Chronicles 2 better than I liked this movie, but I thought the kids were a lot better in this film. Yeah. Because both Christmas Chronicles 2 and this, both have kids that are kind of going through something similar, at least in the same ballpark. Whereas in Christmas Chronicles 2, they just came across as entitled and obnoxious.
Really?
When they really shouldn't be, considering the situation. This, they just seemed like regular kids. They were likable. Like, when they had problems, they cried it out. You had a lot of empathy for a lot of what they were going through, and they weren't just being total wet blankets through this movie. Yeah. They weren't just dragging the movie down or anything like that. They didn't seem like just stock kids put into the movie. They just seemed normal, really. Like, their anxieties seemed normal. Sure. Their the girl's fear about singing, like, it's played pretty straight, and I thought the acting was good on those parts. Now, what did drag the movie down was any time that goddamn grandma came into this movie. The June Squibb.
Oh, yeah. Good God. What, you never heard of FaceTime?
Oh, my God. So this movie would be playing along fine for me. I'd be like, I'd get a laugh here and there. Like, the girl saying, like, I want an iPad, and then she gives her an eye patch. Right. Like, well, that could have gone south. Like, she'd be like, at least she just gave her an eye patch
and didn't like
take
gouge out
her eye. Like, or like every time something magical happens in this, it kept ending up on the news where they kept like fear-mongering the story.
Yeah.
Like Stephanie Weir going like, could this be a weapon secretly made by the U.S. military? Or could this, like, they turned one thing into a satanic panic story. Like, I was kind of enjoying that running gag through it. But then this would come to a grinding halt whenever the older grandma godmother came into this, all of which could have been taken out of the movie. Like, really, there was enough...
Why was she in it? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
That could have been, like, one quick rewrite or re-editing session takes that out of this movie.
Right.
Honestly, even a lot of this stuff, when it kept cutting back to this, like, godmother school with Jane Curtin and everything, even a lot of that, I was like, I don't care about this plot.
Right,
Like, really, you could kind of take a lot of this out, like, and there's enough conflict with Isla Fisher and everything going on there that really you don't need this ticking time bomb plot with Jane Curtin, and especially the oh my god, you would be even the style of comedy is different in it.
Right.
Because, like I said, like, I would be getting some laughs out of just the misunderstandings that were going on and everything. And then Jillian Bell is sitting in her little basement area, and the grandfather clock is there. Suddenly, June Squibb's face comes into it. With what it was what you just said.
Yeah,
She's
what?
Like,
You've never heard of FaceTime?
oh my god. It was like you had a script and then someone came in and said, will you let my funny aunt add a few jokes to this?
Right.
Like, do I have to? Yes. All her cats say she's hilarious. Like, God, it just halted the movie every time this happened. And when I was saying earlier about this movie being too long, that's the 20 minutes that could be taken out of this movie. Is most of the stuff with Jane Curtin and all of this stuff with the grandmother.
Okay. It is hilarious that you suggest that like a writer's funny aunt wrote that scene, because if you remember, it even ended with the main character,
Isla Fisher or Jillian Bell?
Jillian Bell.
Yeah.
It ended with Jillian Bell saying, "So do I hang up, or do you like an old grandma or something like that?" It's just like I don't know, how do I work my phone?
Like,
do I hang up?
Right. It was doing all that. It's like, well, here's the jokes for Grandpa, I guess. Like, maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they figured, like, well, Mom, Dad, and the kids are going to be watching this, but it's the holidays, so the grandparents might be over.
Right.
Let's throw in this CBS old person humor in there. Like, this joke would have been on Diagnosis Murder.
Right. So,
God. So I couldn't stand that, man.
It sounds like you're kind of circling back to my opinion.
No, because the movie is flawed, and like those are the things I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
When the movie was working, I thought it was working well enough. Like, I didn't love this movie.
Yeah.
I just thought that for a lot of it, 90 minutes of it, like than the other parts I said could have been just from this movie.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
This wasn't like Zookeeper.
Again, I never saw I like it when like she's turning things into like fairy tale like animals, like the pig and the raccoon.
Yeah.
I don't know why I called them fairy tale because those don't exist in real life. So the pig is in. I liked at first like the pig is real, but then the CG raccoon comes in. I look at you, I go like, oh yeah, we had a pig guy, but we couldn't get in contact with the raccoon. Yeah. Then the raccoon starts hanging up Christmas lights and sweeping. So I'm like, oh okay, well maybe that's why maybe it'd be a little hard for the raccoon guy to. So
the raccoon was also kind of what bothered me about this movie, cause like, oh, the wackiness, the wacky raccoon getting into everything and chewing on a cable, and literally darkening the city of Boston is just blackout because Gary was chewing on an extension cord. Gary!
Yeah, it ends with an Alvin moment, and then you think it's over, and then narrator comes in like, it ain't over yet. Like, don't, please don't. Again, that character coming back,
right? And I swear to you that the beginning. Okay, maybe like the beginning was animated for like a few short seconds, but once it got onto like June Squibb,
yeah,
it went into live action. So to start the movie with live action June Squibb and then animated June Squibb.
Well, it started out with a little animation on there and then does this kind of like short little epilogue with a lot more animation.
Yeah.
I didn't care. Like, it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? This used to be live action.
Well, no!
Sorry.
No, like you, just like you.
Like you're Michael Jordan, like, what's going on here?
No, just like you know, I just felt like this was totally unnecessary.
No, I agree with that.
No,
like, but I didn't care that it was animated.
Right?
Like,
no,
honestly, it was probably a budget thing. That's why it was. But they did do a little of that at the very beginning of the movie. I did kind of like how when she does go into the real world, like, the real world just kind of starts shitting on her a little bit. like it doesn't take her long at all to be like just dirty and in a ditch on the roadside.
Literally.
And then she finds out later, like, she's allergic to shellfish and almost dies. Like, so some of that, like, I was liking just fine because I thought the performances were solid enough. Where are you going to land on your grade for this movie?
Let's go with a C.
You're going with a C for this?
Yeah. Maybe a C minus.
Yeah. C minus.
Yeah.
Which one you gonna flip a coin on it?
C minus.
I'm going better than that. Like, I didn't love it. It's too long. And it is flawed, and there's characters that just could have been nixed from this movie. Mm-hmm. But it's got more heart to it than the last handful of movies I've watched on Disney Plus, the original movies. It definitely has it in mind that there'll be a lot of families watching this, and it's not completely pandering or anything like that. It feels like something that if this movie were made 20 years ago, it'd probably go on to kind of become this cult, like, Christmas movie. Like, if it was made around when Elf was made, or...
Maybe.
I know this is Halloween, but, like, something like Hocus Pocus or a movie like that. But I don't know if that'll happen with this movie because we get 100 movies a week now. So I don't know how much. Like, I'm sure this movie will have an audience fine in the the next week until 100 more Christmas movies come out. So I don't know how much it'll stand out, but this does feel like something that would have been made about 20 years ago and then kind of found an audience over time. And what I thought worked about it worked well enough in that I think collectively parents and kids would be fine watching this during the holidays. And it did have some small laughs in the movie for me. So I'd give it a B minus.
Wow.
Yeah. It's nothing that, like, I'd have watched on my own. It's nothing I'm going to watch again. It's not even anything I would be like, when I see if I was to see my grandma during the holidays, it's not like I'd be like, oh yeah, you need to watch Godmothered.
Grandma.
But like I said, also honestly, it is that, like, I've seen stuff that's on the way lower end of, like, Disney Plus original movies.
Right.
and this didn't stoop that low.
I mean,
this was a lot more genuine and had more heart to it and more ambition.
So going back to what you said about like comparing this to like Elf and movies like Elf and Hocus Pocus.
Enchanted.
Yeah, and Enchanted.
Yeah.
You know, and then you followed that up with we're getting a lot more movies now. I think maybe that might be the problem, is that I was going to say, you know, those are, I think those are way better quality movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I think so, there's definitely an oversaturation now where studios are just pumping out.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
oversaturated as hell.
Yeah. They're just pumping out good enough movies instead of, you know, quality movies. And I don't know, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm more into the quality movies.
I mean,
quality over quantity.
Honestly, I would probably put this movie on par with. I don't have the love hard on for Elf like a lot of people do.
Really?
It's just all that damn screaming and shit.
Well,
and, like,
yes, Will Ferrell was a bit much. But I will say the movie I thought the movie as a whole was charming. It was fun.
It's got its fans. I mean, hell, it's got Serial now and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it does. And there's things I like James Caan a lot in the movie, and it's a well-made movie.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does have heart. And in terms of the shrieking Will Ferrell movies, yeah it's better than like The House.
And don't forget Peter Dinklage.
Oh, yeah. Like The House or some of his Holmes and Watson and shit like that. Like, yeah, you can see a difference in quality there.
Oh, totally.
I'm just not. Like, screeching Will Ferrell can be a little... Man-child shit can be a little much for me.
Agreed.
And, Hocus Pocus is fine, but I don't have any nostalgia for it. Like, I saw it when it came out. And I don't even think I liked it back then. But then a few years ago, Sarah and I did a midnight screenings on it.
Are they still making the sequel?
Yeah, they're doing a sequel.
Oh, boy.
When I saw it again a few years ago, I was like, I don't love it, but I can definitely see how it has a fan base.
Sure.
So honestly, it's not like I like those movies even better than I like this, or a lot better at least. It is what it is for a movie called Godmothered on Disney Plus, where Jillian Bell's a fairy godmother who comes into the real world. I'm like, it's not that bad.
The network television premiere of Godmothered on ABC Family.
Yeah.
Right after that, it's the Harry Potter marathon.
Then after that, it's gonna be great. It'll be T.J. Hooker reruns.
ABC Family.
Oh yeah, I'm like, dude, I once saw Caddyshack on ABC Family. Like, when you take out the nudity, it's for the family. All right, we'll be right back with anything for Jackson here in a minute. We'll see you then.
Trick or treat.
You know, it's the third movie, because this is the video that I'm the most tired.
Same.
Since we started doing the longer ones with 3 movies, it's basically just like, regardless of what we feel about the movie, like, aside, it is a progression of us getting more tired throughout the video. God, remember when we used to do this, like, the first year we did midnight screenings and the movies all actually were at midnight?
Right, yeah.
And so we'd be reviewing them at like 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that. How did we do that? For a whole summer?
You know, well, so one, summer helped.
And it was 10 years ago.
Exactly, so we were younger.
I remember the hardest part back then was killing time before midnight came around. For me, that was the hardest part. Was doing that. But, okay, so we watched Anything for Jackson. I totally got that title wrong when we introed this at the beginning of it. I think I called it like Anyone But Andrew or something like that.
No, to Laura, you called it Anything for Andrew, and I go Jackson.
I was like, oh, we're watching Anything for Andrew Jackson, about an older couple who will do anything for former President Andrew Jackson. Boy, did this movie play out differently than I thought it would. So anything for Jackson. This is the Shudder original horror movie that it's new. It just started today. You know what the most fascinating thing about this movie is? This movie is from the director of the movie that I just did a Snob episode on. That's on Patreon right now. It's coming up on Monday. That clip I showed you earlier, the Fox Nation movie, Christmas in the Rockies, same director. Justin, I hope I am pronouncing it's D-Y-C-K. So Dick or Dyke, take your pick. So Justin G. Dyck, I think, D-Y-C-K. Okay, so he directed both of those, and the movie, and a lot of stuff he's done in the past too, is a lot of other TV Christmas movies. And the person who wrote this movie, Keith Cooper, I believe is his name, also has written a lot of TV Christmas movies in the past. One of them from a year or so ago that's I think a religious one that's called Baby in a Manger, about a miracle child found in a nativity scene manger. So I'm like, boy, please make that a double feature with this one.
Right!
So all I can gather is that it's these two guys who are just kind of bro, we need to get our shit out and gotta cut loose on this Shudder horror movie. We've been doing these Christmas movies for so long.
Let's do something different.
Let's do something let's put our all into this really creepy horror film.
Oh my god.
On Shudder. It's crazy because when you know, and I knew this before watching the movie, that it was from the same director. And when you're watching it, you can kind of tell, and what I mean by that is, okay, this movie is way better shot and made and paced than Christmas in the Rockies. This movie does have a lot of snow in it, and genuinely feels like it's cold and in winter, versus Christmas in the Rockies, where I'm not even sure if they ever step foot outside because of the green screens and the sky and the mountains and everything. But the main characters, you could kind of tell that the people who made this have worked on a lot of those movies. Not in terms of the story or anything, but or even how good. It's a very well shot movie. It doesn't, in terms of its cinematography and everything, no, it doesn't look like one of those movies where it's the difference between doing a movie that your heart is definitely in versus doing a movie that's a job. You know?
It's a paycheck.
But the movie's lead characters, this older couple, kind of feel like a couple that would probably watch a lot of Hallmark movies before the events in this movie, and would even some of the side characters. Yeah. The guy who is plowing the driveways and everything. Yeah. Even the crazy Ian dude, I'm like, I can almost see them popping up in one of those movies. Yeah. You could make the case that this is in the universe of a lot of TV Christmas films, that have characters that could conceivably pop up in there. It's not like the Ian Satanist guy. It's not like he'd pop up in Christmas in the Rockies and be talking devil worshipping shit. But you could picture him being this throwaway character that you don't really know their past, but he's a quirky guy who works at a library.
Or maybe he's the guy that you see at a comic book shop. You know, just whatever. You know, he's just Ian the comic book guy. Yeah,
and I love that about this movie. I really do. I love that these guys who made this movie got a chance to do something like this, where they can really just kind of cut loose and do something really cool. Because this is a cool movie. It's about this older married couple who they lost their daughter and grandchild. The grandchild died in a car accident, and the mom lived a little bit longer, but it did end up passing. And they get into this cult, this Satanism. This devil worshipping cult, where they have this book where they find that you can, through these means, bring someone back. So they kidnap this pregnant woman, and they want to do this reverse exorcism where the spirit of the kid, Jackson, will then be in her unborn child.
Yeah.
Only it's this couple that naively got into this,
right.
don't really know that much about it, and have unleashed these souls from purgatory to do this crazy shit in this house.
Yeah.
And what I like is that it doesn't go for a lot of like cheap shock value or cheap like scares or anything like that. It's genuinely creepy throughout the film.
Yes.
And a lot of subtle scares in it.
Yes.
And the stuff that is graphic is still like, it'll stick in your head. There's a scene with like floss at one point. There's a scene with a snow plow thing.
Yeah.
Like there's shit that's gonna stick in your head, and those are great unpredictable moments because they make the movie unpredictable, and that you don't know what some side character is going to do by the end of this scene.
Yeah.
And I do like that this older couple like probably spent a majority of their lives as good people.
Right.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So I honestly, you could make the case that they are not really the antagonists, that they were just, they're just, like you said, naive. They're naive. They're desperate. They want to bring their
grandchild.
They want to bring their grandchild back, but and they found this way to do it. So they're like, we're just willing to try anything, literally anything.
Yeah, and just got in over their head.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're certainly like antagonists to a point in the movie, but they're not these like two-dimensional cartoon kind of villains.
Yeah.
Like, you do get the sense that this is a couple that probably lived a majority of their lives just fine and not as bad people, but got so consumed with this, with the grief from this double tragedy that they went through, that it just took over their head in any kind of logical thought.
Yeah.
And just through desperation, bad decisions, and mistakes, it eventually led to this. And they do bad things in this movie, but they are humanized characters.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that
they have redeeming qualities.
Yeah, in that, like I said, like you see the steps that happen that led to this point, and that they get so in over their heads that it becomes more frustrating for them over the course of the movie, because there's a lot of shit they got to clean up throughout the movie's 90-minute runtime. And sometimes they just like scream in like I said, complete frustration, just have to be outdoors and scream, and just one thing is happening after another, and they're just kind of stuck in this situation.
In a way, you could almost maybe like you know how people on the internet recut trailers of horror movies to make it look like comedies. You could probably do that with this movie,
to make it look like a comedy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You probably could. And when the movie has a laugh, it's genuine. The movie's not like unintentionally funny or anything like that. It is.
Well, and I wasn't trying to say that it was.
No, I know what you're saying. Well, I know what you're saying.
What jokes? What?
Oh, just how, there's a lot of, like, genuinely funny stuff with, like, that Ian character.
Yeah, I guess.
And, even them kind of not figuring out, but their kind of, introduction into this world, and just all of the piled on bad things that keep happening, and some of their moments where they're just almost kind of annoyed by the stuff that's happening, like when the cop comes into it, and the phone call with the cop later on in the movie. No, the movie's, it's not a horror comedy, but when it does have like a joke or a laugh or something like that with like I said, the Ian guy who's the other Satanist in the movie, like there's some funny parts with that.
I guess what I mean is, like, you could be like, you could make a a trailer where it's like Harold and Audrey are just having a really bad week.
Yeah, like I said, they could exist in a Hallmark universe. They really kind of could, and it does have familiar things that you usually will see in a movie like this, but the movie's paced very well, and it's good at letting the creep vibe come from its mood and just letting things kind of stay in the background or without doing any kind of really quick edit jump scare freeze into the character.
And there's no cliches, horror movie cliches like the jump scares or the
the freak out or the fake out dream sequence. It's got things in it. It's got things in it where it's like sort of like that you would expect in a lesser movie that would be the case, but when it sort of happens in this, it is something that actually did happen. Yeah. Like to a character. It does have some cliches in it.
I mean,
in every movie like this that has to do with devil worship or exorcisms or something like that, there is always going to be a contortionist. Okay,
good point.
And there is in this film.
Good point. All right.
But it does, but not that it does that bad.
No,
it's just familiar.
Sure.
You've seen that in a lot of movies like this.
Well, and so that's just the thing too, is that's kind of why I hung up on that. I hung up on that statement was because I was like, what? Like, I was like, like they don't do this one cliche. Like, no, that's not it. That's not it.
But they do one thing. It also in a lot of movies like this, there is always the character who comes in to provide backstory and exposition about whatever the demon is, whatever the book is, or something like that. And in this, that's the other Satanist guy, Ian, who comes into the movie. Yeah. But it's integrated in the movie very authentically and organically. Yeah. Like, it isn't, in a lesser movie like this, it'd just be like, oh, someone in the neighborhood happens to know something about this, like the wise maid or something that. Or like, I'm just going to go to the library. There'll be someone there who knows about this shit. In this particular case, like, it's already established that they have been doing things in this cult that this guy is in. So it's organically weaved into the movie that this would be somebody that they'd be talking to about it. Because they establish that there's a group of these people. And he is important to the story. It's more than just they need someone there to provide exposition. Like, he factors pretty greatly into the last act of this movie.
Okay, so we are being vague about that then. Yeah,
I'm not going to spoil
it.
Okay. But he is important to the plot of the film. Yes. There are some really, really damn good horror movies on Shudder. And I haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen some.
Do you think that's why they call it Shudder?
Because it's a horror movie streaming service,
like Shudder, like you're.
I'll bet it is. I wonder if they call it Comedy Central because it's got I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Halfway through, I'm like, nah, that's too sarcastic.
I guess I didn't catch on to you saying it is actually a devoted horror.
Yeah, it is.
It is a devoted horror platform. No, you know what? I got schooled right there. That was
I took you to school. School is in session.
You know what? I opened the door, I walked right through, and you were just like, you mean since it's a horror?
Sure, a lot of Disney movies on here. Yeah, it's Disney Plus, bro.
God damn it.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. Like, it's a horror movie streaming service. Okay. It's what, like, Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs is on. And, no, I saw, god damn it, what was it called? I reviewed it a couple of months ago, the horror movie, Spiral? Yeah, Spiral. The horror movie I watched about a gay couple from a couple months ago. That was good. I like this one better. In fact, like last week too, I watched Run with Sarah Paulson. That was also a very kind of isolated movie where someone is being held against their will at one point, and also a very good movie. I liked this one better. I did. Run kind of fell apart for me in the last kind of 5 or so minutes of the movie, but other than that, it was really solid. This one is consistently pretty creepy and has characters that you like watching, that you like seeing them go through this story.
Yeah.
And it does its flashbacks well too.
Yeah.
Without
3 weeks earlier or something.
Yeah. And to go back to Mank also had like a structure that had a lot of flashbacks and everything, and it did a lot of title cards, but it was like creatively put in the movie, like you were watching a script.
Exactly. Yeah. That didn't bother me too much.
Yeah, no, me neither, because they were doing it stylistically, like, and there was a point to them doing it like that. This doesn't really do anything with title cards or anything like that. It just kind of lets its story unfold, and it does so very well. It does. You know, there's not a whole lot of really clunky exposition. There's, the story unfolds in such a way that, like you said, it's very organic. I really dug this movie. And a lot of times these days, there's not a lot of horror flicks that genuinely freak me out. It was intense. It is an intense movie.
I was just like, I was just watching it, just like stiff as a board, just like, what is going to happen next? You know? Oh my God, it was so good. So good. Yeah, I was sitting there going like, I don't know how this is going to end. Like, I don't know how this character is going to get out of this. I don't know how these characters are going to even attempt to try to get out of this. Like, so, I did think that it was weird that, like, I'm kind of surprised no one else in this neighborhood has kind of noticed, like, there's some other going on, like that snowplow incident for one and things like that. But other than that, you think the neighbor next door neighbor would be like, "Hey, you're a snowplow guy. Just is he all right?" And it's a much better film than Christmas in the Rockies, the director's other film. From like, I wonder which one was made first, because they're both new. Like, this just came out. You gotta wonder if this was like on their shelf, like they were just like, like maybe they're like, okay, we're gonna do these Hallmark and Fox News Channel. There's passion movies. In this. There is real passion for the genre and everything, and telling a good creepy story with very good solid characters. I imagine, like, I'm sure Christmas in the Rockies was probably made in the summer, because most of those like TV Christmas movies are, and that movie came out Thanksgiving, I think. Did it? Yeah, I think Christmas in the Rockies. It makes sense. I mean, you give it a few months to get shot and edited, and if it had a really low, or if it had as bad as special effects as you say it did. I showed you that green screen. Wait till you see this episode, man. Like, man, that Rocky Mountain green screen. Whoa, dude. It's that seems to be the kind of movie that you can get done, get edited, and get released in like 6 months tops. 6 months tops. Yeah, I'd have to ask, because Ryan's worked on a lot of them. A lot of those Christmas movies. So he worked on Christmas in the Rockies? No, he didn't work on that one. I forget which ones he did, but he tells me a lot of, like, things behind the scenes stuff, like how they get made and all that. Like, next time he's here, we do a video together.
could probably do a whole video where I'm just asking him about those movies he's worked on, because he's got some pretty fun insight on him, to be perfectly honest. Where's your grade gonna land on this?
Ooh, let's see. Damn, do I go for the A, or do I just, or is that too generous? You know what you should do? You should, whenever I'm this indecisive, you should like animate like ABCD, 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 ABCD.
Dude, that takes work. This used to be the show where I was like, sweet, I don't have to do shit. We just sit in a car and talk about a movie. Now I edit it like the next morning. Actually, I've had fun doing that, honestly. I like having this have like its own set, like premiere Saturday evening date with some editing.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna give it the A. I'm gonna give it the A, because this was a great movie. It was genuinely scary. It was genuinely intense.
Yeah.
This was good.
It's very good. If you got Shudder, check it out. If you don't, that's a service that's worth getting. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there. You really, really, really get your money's worth with that.
Use the promo code CinemaSnob.
I should maybe. I don't have one, but like, hey, maybe I should look into that. But I'll give it, because, this is hands down, it's one of the best horror films of the year.
Yeah,
absolutely, it is. And again, like, it's a very creepy movie. The makeup is very good. The gore is very good when it's there, and the mood is solid. It's got some really creepy imagery in it, and it's fun too when you know like that a lot of like TV Christmas people made this movie. I know. So like that's also like really fun about it.
Dude, you just taught me that these are the same guys.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna tell him that in the car during the review.
That's why my reaction was just like jaw drop. I'm like, are you serious right now? These guys.
So, I mean, there's, like I said, there's things about it, like that all of these have, like, a contortionist and everything. Yeah. And also, like I said, like, I'm kind of surprised no one's sort of noticed a lot of this stuff going on, but that's all kind of minor. I'll give it an A-. I won't go the full A, but I'll give it an A-, because any kind of qualm I have is very small. Yeah. It is. This is a really cool movie. It's totally worth checking out. All right, should we wrap up the other grades?
Sure.
The recap.
Sure.
Do you want to do it this time?
Oh, geez.
I'm testing you to see if you remember.
Okay. All right, so for Mank, you gave Mank an A.
I gave it an A.
I gave Mank a B, which was kind of unfair because I wasn't really into that kind of thing, but you know, I definitely liked it for what it was.
Godmothered.
Godmothered, thank you.
I almost said Godfather again.
You gave it a C.
I gave it a B-.
B-, okay, and I gave it a C-.
You gave it a C-.
Yeah, okay. And then for anything for anything for Jackson. We both gave it an A because we really.
No, I gave an A-.
Oh, A and A-.
How dare you?
Damn. See, you're better at that than I am, but
well, I honestly couldn't remember yours on Mank. I couldn't remember if it was a B or a B+.
Yeah.
So, that was why I let you go.
Oh.
I would have just asked.
Full of shit.
I know. I would have just asked and been like, "Oh, I want to spare myself the embarrassment. I'll just let him do this."
Let's throw Jerrid under the bus. Let's see how he does.
Over like some minor shit. Like, I don't want to do the recap. I'm not sure which grade he gave it. That would be humiliating.
How about you try it, Jerrid?
Why don't you give it a shot? You got this. I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap in the back seat. You can recap the rest of this. All right. Where's your YouTube channel at?
YouTube slash Jerrid Foils. I also now have a Twitch, twitch.tv slash foil wrapped. I'll send you the spelling because it's one of those funky spellings.
Oh yeah, I think I got it in the messages that you sent me the other day. I looked at it and was like, is he drunk again? Like, oh, I get it. Okay, I see the spelling now. And subscribe to our channel too, where you'll get, if you subscribe to us, you'll get alerts whenever these premiere. They give you the heads up and everything. And come watch us. These always, midnight screenings always premieres now 5 p.m. Central Time on Saturdays. So come watch it in the premiere, take part in the chat. It's a lot of fun. It's been fun hanging out there the last few weeks. And follow us on Twitter, too, at The Cinema Snob. As for next week, I'm sure one of them will be the Faith Under Fire, the Sorbo, Dean Kane movie.
Well, we probably need a religious movie now after this.
Yes. Maybe I'll make that Baby in a Manger movie, like a Snob episode coming up. That sounded kind of interesting when I looked at the plot earlier. Like, what is in this? Okay. All right. So we'll be back, like I said, next week with the Sorbo movie and whatever will be trending on streaming. Whatever the highest ones that will be the ones I'm sure that we'll watch. So see you next time. Thanks for watching.